Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. So, there are a lot of good things about the triennial cycle, but one of the things that is not so good is it disturbs the narrative continuity, and particularly in this week's Parsha, we really come in the middle of the story, which is the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. And we have like the actual destruction, but we don't have the why, right? But so at the end of the first triennial, God tells Abraham that he's going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, and that their pride has reached me, and that's why I'm going to destroy it. Okay, now the question is, what exactly is the sin, right? And walk up and down the street and ask every evangelical Christian, right? And they will tell you it's homosexuality. But it's not, okay? In the Jewish tradition, the sin of Sodom and Gomorrah is inhospitality to strangers. Okay, and according to the Midrash, right, when a stranger came to Sodom, they would give him silver and gold, right? And he'd be like, oh, wow, wonderful people. But they had a rule that you can't sell food or drink to strangers, right? So you have all this silver and gold, but you would starve to death, right? So what is the cry of Sodom? So again, according to the Midrash, there was a young girl who gave food to strangers, and she was tortured to death, okay? And it was her cry which reached the heavens and prompted God to plan to destroy the city. And now here's a quote, a story from the late Elie Wiesel. One day a tzaddik came to Sodom. He knew what Sodom was, so he came to save it from sin, from destruction. He preached to the people, please do not be murderers, do not be thieves, do not be silent, and do not be indifferent. He went on preaching day after day, maybe even picketing, but no one listened. He was not discouraged. He went on preaching for years. Finally, someone asked him, Rabbi, why do you do that? Don't you see it is no use? He said, I know it is of no use, but I must. And I will tell you why. In the beginning, I thought I had to protest and to shout in order to change them. I have given up this hope. Now I know I must picket and scream and shout so that they should not change me. Right? And in Pirkei Avot, we have this very interesting teaching that there are four types of people, okay? One who says, what's mine is mine, and what's yours and yours is mine is wicked, right? He says, what's mine is, I forget it, but the point, the key part is a person who says, what's mine is mine and yours is yours. Yesh Omrim, there are those who say, Ze midat Sodom. Okay, this is characteristic of the inhabitants of Sodom. What's mine is mine, and what? Right, that's wrong. What's mine is mine. What's yours is yours, right? That's totally normal, acceptable attitude, right? But Pirkei Avot says, no, that's midat Sodom. That is the characteristic of the inhabitants of stone. And there's this whole category in halakha. I can't, go into the examples, but it's called Kofin Oto Amidat Stone. Okay, which means we force him not to act like the inhabitants of Sodom. Okay, so an example, right? I have a piece of property and I want to sell my piece of property, right? It's mine, right? I can sell it to whoever I want to, right? But if my neighbor wants to buy it, right, and he wants to pay the asking price, right? But somebody else comes along and they're willing to pay the asking price, and I say, you know what? Today I feel like being a jerk, right? I'm selling it to this other guy and not to my neighbor. Kofino to amidat stone, right? We force you to sell the land to your next door neighbor, right? Don't be a jerk, right? That's a good translation. Kofin oto amidat stone. We force him not to act like a jerk, right? So the people of Sodom, and again, it's a pity we didn't read this, right? But this whole argument that Abraham has with God, right? Where he says, you can't destroy the whole city, right? Because Halilallah, God forbid, I mean, he's saying to God, God forbid that you destroy the innocent along with the guilty, right? Right? Shall the judge of the whole earth not act justly? Right? And I remember, I mean, talking about Gaza. In 2007, Kelly and I were in Israel, and we were on the Midrashot on Ben Yehuda Street, which is where people go to, set up if they have a petition or a protest or whatever. And there were a bunch of teenagers, and they saw me, and I was wearing a kippah. And in Israel, I mean, there's a certain assumption, right, about like what your politics are based on what you look like. Okay, so Stu, for example, you're wearing a senator kippah, right? Mine is smaller, so it's just a sort of regular kippah, right? But they came up and they had a petition, and what was the petition? The petition was to bomb Gaza and kill everyone, right? And they came up to me and they said, please sign this petition. Because they knew I would, because I was wearing a kippah, right? And I said, I can't sign that petition. What you're asking for is forbidden by the Torah. And they looked at me, what are you talking about? And I said, Hashofet kol haaretz lo ya'aseh mishpat, right? That shall not the judge of the earth act justly, right? And if Abraham says, you can't kill everybody in Sodom, right? Because you'll kill the innocent along with the guilty, right? So, and there was and I urge you to find this sermon on YouTube by Rabbi Sharon Drasha from Los Angeles, okay? And it's after the Gaza massacre, and the title of the sermon is, we've lost so much, let's not lose our damn minds, right? And I heard, so on Wednesday night, I went to a consultation that was from the Jewish Federation and about the situation in Gaza, but it was the first meeting that I've ever had, not so much about what do we do, so much as what do we think, right? And what does Jewish tradition tell us about this? And one of the rules is we could share things that were said, but not who said them. Okay, so, all I will say is that this was said by an Orthodox rabbi. And the fact that it was said by an Orthodox rabbi surprised me, because just like, those kids who saw me wearing, they know I'm not an Orthodox rabbi, right? But they saw me wearing a kippah. He said, and this is something we all know, that on October 7th was the largest number of Jews killed for being Jews since the Holocaust. Right, but there's another thing to bear in mind, is that since then, it is the largest number of civilians killed by Jews since the Bible. Right, since the Bible. And I want to say two things about that. Okay, the first is that according to international law, as far as I am concerned, every single one of those civilian deaths was lawful, right? But what is lawful can also be awful, right? And we need to sit with that and live with that. And what does that mean, right? That Israel has an absolute right to self-defense, right? And if we want peace and freedom for the people of Gaza, right, that's up to Hamas, right? Release the hostages right now, and the whole moral equation changes on a dime, right? But the fact that certain things are lawful doesn't make them any less tragic. Right? I mean, there's a meme going around, and it's worth thinking about. It's from MASH, right? Where Father McKay says to Hawkeye, well, Hawkeye, war is hell. And Hawkeye says, no, war is worse than hell. Right? Because all the people who are in hell belong there. Right? They've done something to earn their place in hell, right? But the people who were caught up in war, many of them did nothing, right? And, and I've heard, members of our own congregation say things that would have shocked themselves a month ago, right? And I've said things that would have shocked me a month ago, right? This is the first time in my career that things I've said about Israel have been criticized by congregants from the left, right? I am used to being criticized about things I say about Israel from the right. I'm not used to be criticized from the left, okay? And I don't know why. Maybe it's because the son of a friend of mine was among the first ones killed, right? And, we're all, this situation, it makes you a bit of a sugar, right? And we're all a bit of a sugar, right? And if you're not a bit of a sugar, then there's something really wrong with it, right? But you know what? Let's not lose our damn minds, right? And let's not lose our sense of morality, right? And understand that, like it says in the Parsha, you cannot punish the guilty along with the innocent, right? And having said that, it is inevitable, right? I mean, I used as an example, right, that Hamas uses ambulances to transport fighters, right? Well, yesterday, right, Israel bombed an ambulance and killed 15 people in the. Now, first of all, 15 people inside an ambulance, right? Why are there 15 people inside an ambulance, right? And Hamas says, we're taking them in the ambulance, they're sick people, we're taking them to, the Rafah crossing to go to eat. And Israel says, no, Hamas was using this ambulance to transport fighters, right? Now, quick poll. How many people here believe Hamas? Right? And how many people here believe Israel? Right? Okay, so, but let's say it was Tetsi, right? Or in Arabic, noose, right? There are 14 people in the ambulance, and 7 of them are sick civilians, and 7 of them are Hamas fighters. Bomb the ambulance or don't bomb the ambulance? Bomb it, right? Because otherwise, Hamas has now found a way to move its fighters around with impunity, right? And so you bomb the ambulance and 7 fighters are killed and 7 civilians are killed. And whose fault is that? Right? The world will say Israel, right? We say Hamas, right? To those 7 civilians and their families, it's completely irrelevant, right? Dead is dead, whether it's, right? So I don't have an answer. I do not have an answer, right? And sometimes Israel will do things that are lawful and necessary, but still awful, right? And still terrible. And let's try very hard, like Eliezer said, not to lose our own sense of humanity, right? And that's why, on Pesach, we spill the 10 drops of wine, right? Does anybody say that the deaths of the Egyptian soldiers was wrong? God was wrong to kill the Egyptian soldiers? No, he wasn't wrong. But that doesn't mean it's not sad and tragic, right? And so I want to just echo the words of Rabbi Krauss, right? We've lost so much, let's not lose our damn minds. Okay, and let's bear in mind that and care about all of the stuff that's going on, and not just our own. Shabbat Shalom. We continue with Kaddish before Musaf and the Musaf service, 155 or